The vast chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with activity as representatives from over 200 species gathered for an unprecedented announcement. Through the massive viewing windows, countless stars twinkled against the black void of space, serving as silent witnesses to this historic moment. Admiral Grant stood at attention aboard the Earth's diplomatic vessel, Hope's Dawn, watching the massive alien ships that dwarfed his vessel. The human fleet, consisting of just 12 ships, looked like toys compared to the behemoths of other species. Each alien vessel stretched for kilometers, their hulls adorned with weapons that could shatter moons. "Admiral, we're receiving transmission from the Council," Lieutenant Rogers reported from his communication station. "They're ready to begin the session." Inside the Council chamber, High Speaker Thull, a tall being with crystalline features, rose from his seat. His voice, translated through advanced systems, echoed through the chamber. "We gather today to evaluate the petition of a new species seeking membership in our galactic community. They call themselves humans." Murmurs rippled through the assembly as holographic displays showed the human fleet. Several council members couldn't suppress their amusement at the sight of the tiny vessels. "These are their military vessels." General Kraz of the militant sectors laughed, his scaled skin reflecting the chamber's lights. "They look like escape pods compared to our warships." Admiral Grant maintained his composure as the derisive comments reached his ears through the translation system. His second-in-command, Commander Wilson, clenched her fists but remained silent. The Council's Military Assessment Committee presented their findings. The human fleet consists of merely 12 vessels, the largest being 300 meters in length. Their weapon systems appear to be based on primitive plasma technology, and their defensive capabilities are minimal at best. More laughter echoed through the chamber. Even the usually diplomatic races struggled to maintain their composure. High Speaker Thull raised his hand for silence. "While their military presence is modest, we must evaluate their civilization as a whole. Their representatives await our response." Admiral Grant and his team were invited into the chamber. As they walked down the central aisle, towering aliens looked down at them, with mixture of curiosity and dismissal. Grant noticed how even the smallest council races were at least twice the size of humans. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," Thull greeted them. "We have reviewed your petition for membership." Grant stepped forward, his voice steady and dignified. "Thank you, High Speaker. We come in peace and hope to contribute to the greater galactic community." From the upper tiers, a voice called out, "Contribute? With what?" "Those toy ships of yours." Grant smiled slightly, remembering the words of Earth's president before their departure. "Let them underestimate us. It's worked in our favor before." The military committee's head, General Kraz, leaned forward. "Tell me, Admiral Grant, how do you expect to defend your trade routes with such a limited fleet? The galaxy is not always a peaceful place. We have managed to secure our solar system and nearby space lanes effectively," Grant replied calmly. "Size isn't everything, General." This prompted more barely concealed laughter. High Speaker Thull attempted to maintain decorum. "Perhaps we should focus on their cultural and technological achievements." "Their technological achievements?" Another council member interrupted. "Their ships still use visible thrusters. They haven't even mastered basic gravitational propulsion." As the mockery continued, Commander Wilson whispered to Grant, "They have no idea, do they?" Grant shook his head slightly. Earth's ships might have looked primitive, but appearances were deceiving. Each vessel contained technology that would shock these arrogant aliens if they ever discovered it. After hours of questioning and thinly veiled insults, the Council reached their decision. Earth would be granted provisional membership, mainly because no one considered them a threat or competitor. As the human delegation returned to their ship, Grant looked at his crew. "Well, that went exactly as expected." "They think we're harmless," Wilson observed, reviewing the Council's official assessment on her tablet. "Good," Grant replied, watching the massive alien ships through the viewport. "Let them think that. History has shown time and again, It's not the size of the fleet that matters, but how you use it. The Hope's Dawn and its escort vessels powered up their primitive engines, the supposed plasma drives glowing with blue energy. None of the watching aliens noticed the subtle distortions around the human ships or the complex quantum fields that their sensors couldn't detect. 3 months after Earth's admission to the Galactic Council, the peaceful facade of interstellar politics shattered. The Dominion, a war-driven empire from the Outer Rim, launched their first bold attack against the Meridian colonies, a peaceful race known for their advanced medical technology. Admiral Grant stood in the emergency council session, watching the holographic display of the attack. The Dominion's massive warships, dark and angular, tore through the Meridian's defensive line like paper. Their weapons left trails of destruction that made even the most hardened council members flinch. "This is unacceptable," the Meridian representative cried out, his luminescent skin pulsing with distress. "We've lost 3 colony worlds in less than a week." High Speaker Thul tried to maintain order as chaos erupted in the chamber. "The Council will respond to this aggression. General Kraz, what forces can we deploy?" The Scaled General activated a tactical display. "The combined fleet can be ready in 10 standard days. We have 5,000 heavy warships." 10 days, another representative shouted. "The Dominion will have reached the core worlds by then." Admiral Grant stepped forward. "Earth can have ships in position within 48 hours. The chamber fell silent for a moment before erupting in laughter. General Kraz wiped tears from his eyes. "Your tiny vessels, against Dominion warships. Each of their ships is bigger than your entire fleet combined. Size isn't everything." Grant repeated his earlier statement from months ago. "We've analyzed their attack patterns. We can help." The Meridian representative looked desperate enough to accept any help, but others quickly shouted him down. "We don't need help from primitives. Those toys would just get in the way. They'd be destroyed in seconds." High Speaker Thul raised his hand for silence. "While we appreciate Earth's generous offer, this situation requires a proper military response. The combined fleet will handle this threat." Grant watched the tactical displays as more reports came in. The Dominion was advancing faster than anyone had predicted. Their ships moved with brutal efficiency, targeting key defensive positions and supply lines. Back aboard the Hope's Dawn, Commander Wilson reviewed the latest intelligence. "The Dominion has already taken 7 systems. Their ships are faster than anything the Council has." "Except us," Grant noted, studying the enemy fleet formations. "Their tactics are predictable. They rely on brute force and overwhelming numbers." "Just like everyone else out here," Wilson agreed. "They all build bigger and bigger ships, thinking size equals power." Lieutenant Rogers interrupted with an urgent message. "Sir, the Dominion just hit the Centauri trading hub. The Council's defense fleet, they're gone. Completely destroyed." Grant's jaw tightened. The Centauri hub was just 3 jumps from Earth. "Send a priority message to command. Request permission to engage, with or without Council approval." "Sir," Wilson hesitated, "if we reveal our true capabilities." "Better than watching more worlds fall," Grant replied. "The Council's pride isn't worth a cost in lives." The next emergency session was even more chaotic. The Centauri hub's destruction had shaken everyone's confidence. The mighty combined fleet, still days away from deployment, suddenly seemed inadequate. "Their ships are too fast, too powerful," General Kraz admitted, his earlier bravado gone. "We've never seen weapons like these." Grant watched the Council's fear grow. These species, so used to relying on the size and power of their ships, couldn't comprehend being outmatched. They had forgotten that warfare was about more than raw strength. A message flashed on Grant's personal display. Earth Command had given the green light. He stood up, his voice cutting through the panic. "Earth will engage the Dominion fleet at the Proxima checkpoint," he announced. "We'll prevent them from advancing further into Council space." This time, the laughter was tinged with hysteria. your dozen ships against their armada. This is no time for jokes. You'll be annihilated." Grant turned to leave the chamber, his team following. At the door, he paused and looked back at the council. "You mock what you don't understand," he said quietly. "That's about to change." As the human delegation departed, High Speaker Thull felt a strange chill. Something in Grant's confidence gave him pause. Perhaps there was more to these humans than met the eye. The Hope's dawn, and its escort ships broke orbit, their engines glowing with that deceptively simple blue light. They were about to teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating humanity, if anyone survived to learn from it. In the darkened command center of the Hope's dawn, Admiral Grant activated the ship's true combat systems for the first time since leaving Earth. Hidden panels slid open across the bridge, revealing advanced interfaces that had remained concealed from alien inspections. "All ships, initiate Protocol Omega," Grant commanded. "Disengage camouflage systems." The seemingly primitive exterior of the human vessels began to change. What appeared to be basic hull plating shifted and transformed, revealing layers of quantum-engineered materials. The simple plasma drives disappeared, replaced by gravity manipulation systems that bent space itself. Commander Wilson watched their sensor readings with satisfaction. Stealth systems disengage. The Council's monitoring stations won't know what hit them when they see this. Each human ship was a masterpiece of deception. Their small size wasn't a weakness, it was purposeful. While other races built larger and larger ships, humanity had discovered that smaller vessels could harness quantum forces more efficiently. The laws of physics favored the compact designs that others mocked. Artificial Intelligence Core Online announced the ship's AI, known as ARIA. Unlike the basic computers other species used, ARIA was a true sentient partner, capable of running combat simulations faster than organic minds could think. Lieutenant Rogers monitored the tactical display as their fleet moved into position. "The Dominion fleet will reach Proxima checkpoint in 30 minutes. Their ships still haven't detected us." Grant nodded, watching the massive enemy vessels approach. The Dominion fleet was impressive, 200 capital ships, each one dwarfing the entire human squadron. Their weapons could crack planets, their shields could withstand conventional attacks for days. But they had never faced anything like humanity's ships. ARIA. "Display ship capabilities," Grant ordered. The AI brought up detailed schematics of their vessels. The primitive plasma weapons were actually quantum disruptors, capable of bypassing shields by attacking through multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their small engines housed miniaturized singularity drives, allowing maneuvers that would tear larger ships apart. Even their hull material was special, a self-repairing nanolattice that adapted to enemy attacks. "Sir," Wilson reported, "the Council is demanding updates. They're wondering why we're not running away." Grant smiled slightly. "Tell them to watch and learn." The Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace, their massive ships casting shadows across the star system. Their formation was perfect by conventional standards, designed to bring maximum firepower to bear while protecting their vulnerabilities. But against human ships, they might as well have painted targets on themselves. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Grant commanded. "ARIA, begin electronic warfare protocols." The human vessels suddenly accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible for their size. Their quantum drives allowed them to ignore most laws of inertia, letting them turn and move in ways that made larger ships' crews sick just watching. The Dominion fleet's communications erupted in confusion. Their targeting systems couldn't lock onto the human ships. The quantum fields around each vessel made them appear to be in multiple places simultaneously. "They're launching fighters," Rogers reported. "Thousands of them." "Perfect," Grant replied. "ARIA, show them why size doesn't matter." The AI deployed her electronic warfare suite. In seconds, half the enemy fighters froze in space, their computer systems completely overwhelmed by attacks they couldn't detect, let alone defend against. The rest found themselves fighting against their own targeting systems as AIA rewrote their combat protocols in real time. Commander Wilson watched in satisfaction as the mighty Dominion fleet struggled to engage their tiny ships. Their weapons can't track us. Their shields aren't configured for multi-dimensional attacks. Everything they built to fight conventional battles is useless. The first human attack run demonstrated this perfectly. The Hope's Dawn sliced through the enemy formation, its quantum disruptors bypassing the massive shields of a Dominion dreadnought. The giant ship's hull split open as its quantum field collapsed, its mighty weapons useless against an enemy they couldn't properly target. "Sir," Rogers called out, "we're receiving transmissions from the Council observation posts. They're asking what they're seeing." Grant stood at his command station, watching as his small fleet systematically dismantled ships 10 times their size. Every move was precise, calculated by AIs operating at speeds organic minds couldn't match, using technology that larger ships couldn't replicate. "Tell them," he replied. "They're seeing why humanity never needed to build massive ships. Sometimes the smallest blade is the sharpest." The battle had only just begun, but the galaxy's understanding of warfare was about to change forever. The Dominion fleet's command ship, a massive vessel named World Breaker, launched its primary weapon. A beam of energy thick enough to shatter moons shot toward the human squadron. For a moment, the observing council members thought they were about to witness the end of Earth's foolish resistance. They were wrong. The Hope's Dawn and its escort ships didn't try to dodge. Instead, their quantum fields flared with impossible colors. The devastating beam passed through the space they occupied, but somehow the ships remained unharmed. "What sorcery is this?" The Dominion Admiral's transmission boomed across all channels. "Nothing can survive a direct hit." Inside the Hope's Dawn, Admiral Grant watched calmly as AIA had explained their defense. "Phase shift successful. Enemy weapon passed through our quantum pocket dimension. 0 damage sustained." The Council observation posts erupted with activity. Their sensors couldn't explain what they were seeing. The human ships seemed to exist in multiple states at once, breaking every rule of physics they understood. Commander Wilson monitored the battle data. "Sir, their fleet is regrouping. They're trying to form a sphere around us." "Predictable," Grant replied. "AIA, execute combat pattern Sigma. Show them why being surrounded isn't always an advantage." The human ships suddenly split apart, each vessel moving with perfect coordination. What looked like chaos to observers was actually a precisely choreographed dance, calculated by 12 linked AI systems working in perfect harmony. The Dominion's massive ships tried to track the smaller vessels, but their size worked against them. Every time they turned to face one threat, 3 more human ships struck from different angles. Their mighty shields, designed to withstand frontal assaults from other large vessels, couldn't adapt to attacks coming from multiple dimensions simultaneously. Enemy flagship attempting to coordinate their response, Lieutenant Rogers reported. "Their communication systems are still struggling against AIA's interference." The battle zone had become a graveyard of Dominion ship fragments. The mighty vessels, some over 5 kilometers long, were being systematically dismantled by ships they could barely see, let alone hit. "Sir," Wilson called out, "the Council is demanding to know what kind of weapons we're using. They're concerned." Grant understood their worry. The ease with which human ships were defeating the previously unstoppable Dominion fleet must have been terrifying to watch. "Tell them the truth," he ordered. "Tell them we're using intelligence over brute force, quality over quantity." Another Dominion dreadnought exploded as 3 human ships executed a perfect attack run. Their quantum disruptors bypassed the massive ship shields completely, targeting specific structural weak points that AIA had identified in milliseconds. The World Breaker launched a desperate salvo of missiles, thousands of them filling space with deadly projectiles. It was an impressive display of firepower that would have overwhelmed any conventional fleet. AIA, if you would. Grant gestured to the tactical display. The AI activated their point-defense systems. Microscopic drones, invisible to normal sensors, swarmed out from the human ships. Each drone carried a tiny quantum field generator. In seconds, the massive missile barrage simply vanished, shifted into a pocket dimension where they could detonate harmlessly. Enemy fleet is attempting to retreat, Rogers announced. Their formation is breaking up. Grant nodded. Let some of them go. The galaxy needs to understand what they witnessed here today. The remaining Dominion ships scattered, their mighty engines pushing them into emergency jumps away from the battlefield. The world breaker itself turned to flee, its imposing bulk now seeming less impressive against the backdrop of its destroyed fleet. As the battle wound down, the Council observation posts were silent. The representatives watched in stunned disbelief as the human ships began cleanup operations, their primitive technology effortlessly containing the dangerous reactor breaches from destroyed enemy vessels. Commander Wilson pulled up the battle statistics. 47 enemy capital ships destroyed, 89 severely damaged, over 2,000 fighters eliminated, 0 casualties on our side. Send the battle data to Earth Command, Grant ordered, and prepare a full report for the Council. It's time they understood what humanity brings to the galaxy. As the Hope's Dawn moved through the debris field, its small size no longer seemed like a disadvantage. The Council would soon learn that humanity had evolved beyond the need for massive ships. They had instead perfected the art of efficiency, turning their supposed weakness into their greatest strength. The galaxy would never look at human ships the same way again. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. The holographic display showed footage from the battle at Proxima checkpoint, and not a single representative spoke as they watched the small human fleet demolish the dreaded Dominion forces. High-Speaker Thul's crystalline features reflected the light of the display as he watched a human vessel, barely visible, execute a maneuver that should have torn it apart. The ship phased through a Dominion dreadnought's shields like they didn't exist, its quantum weapons leaving precise cuts in the massive vessel's hull. Impossible, General Kraz muttered, his scaled skin pale. The energy readings from their ships, they're higher than anything we've ever recorded. Admiral Grant stood calmly before the Council, hands clasped behind his back. The Dominion fleet relied on size and power. We relied on efficiency and advanced technology. The results speak for themselves. The tactical displays showed the remaining Dominion forces regrouping at their forward base in the Helios sector. Their once mighty armada was reduced to less than half its original strength, and the survivors were clearly rattled. But how? A Council member demanded. Your ships. They were primitive. We saw basic plasma drives, simple hull plating. You saw what we wanted you to see, Commander Wilson explained, stepping forward with a technical display. Every human vessel is equipped with quantum camouflage systems. We can alter our apparent technological signature at will. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. The implications were staggering. If humans could hide such advanced technology, what else were they capable of? On the main display, Araya demonstrated the true capabilities of the human fleet. The AI's presence alone was shocking to the Council. Most species considered true artificial intelligence too dangerous to develop. Our ships are small because they need to be, Grant explained. Quantum field manipulation becomes exponentially more difficult with increased mass. The Dominion's massive ships can't perform the maneuvers we do. Physics won't allow it. The display showed a human vessel executing a combat turn that bent space itself. The ship moved in ways that made several Council members feel ill just watching. The Dominion is regrouping, Lieutenant Rogers reported. They're gathering reinforcements from their outer territories. Early estimates suggest a fleet 3 times larger than before. General Kraz laughed nervously. Even your impressive ships can't handle those numbers. The Dominion will learn from their mistakes. Grant smiled slightly. Numbers don't matter when you can't hit your target. Araya, show them Combat Simulation Alpha. The AI displayed a projection of the coming battle. The human ships, now operating at full capacity without hiding their capabilities, moved like ghosts through the enemy formation. Their quantum fields allowed them to exist partially in other dimensions, making conventional attacks useless. Each of our ships, Wilson explained, carries an AI as sophisticated as ARIA. They work together in perfect synchronization, calculating billions of possible moves per second. The Dominion's organic commanders can't compete with that level of coordination. The Council watched as the simulation showed the human fleet systematically dismantling a force many times their size. Every move was precise, every attack calculated for maximum effect with minimum energy expenditure. "We need your help," High Speaker Thull finally admitted. "The Dominion threatens us all, and clearly our traditional military doctrine is outdated." Grant nodded. "Earth is willing to share some of our defensive technology with our allies. We can teach your crews new tactics, help you modify your ships to be more efficient." The chamber, once filled with mockery for the tiny human fleet, now buzzed with excited discussion. Representatives who had laughed at Earth's ships were now desperately trying to secure military alliances. "Sir," Rogers reported, "we're getting updates from the front. The Dominion fleet is moving sooner than expected. They'll reach the core worlds in 3 days." "Then we better get started," Grant replied. He turned to the Council. "Time to show the galaxy that humanity's approach to warfare isn't just different, it's revolutionary." As the emergency session ended, High Speaker Thull approached Grant privately. "We were wrong about your species, Admiral. We thought size and power were everything. You've proven that intelligence and efficiency can overcome any obstacle." Grant watched the Council members rushing to prepare for war, their previous arrogance replaced by determination and hope. Sometimes, he reflected, the greatest victories come not from overwhelming force, but from being underestimated by your enemies. The tide of war had turned, and the galaxy would never be the same. The command deck of the Hope's Dawn had become an unlikely center of galactic military planning. Alien officers crowded around holographic displays as ARIA demonstrated new combat techniques. Their earlier skepticism had been replaced by eager attention as they watched human tactical simulations. "The key is efficiency," Admiral Grant explained to a group of Council fleet commanders. "Your ships have the power. They just need to use it smarter." Commander Wilson directed the tactical display, showing how even the largest Council vessels could adapt human quantum defense principles. "You don't need to completely rebuild your fleets. We can modify your existing systems to be more effective." The transformation of the Council race's military forces was remarkable. Under human guidance, their massive ships began incorporating quantum field generators and AI support systems. While they couldn't match the agility of human vessels, they became far more formidable than before. "Admiral," Lieutenant Rogers called out, "the Dominion fleet is changing course. They're attacking the Arcturus defense line ahead of schedule." The massive viewing screen showed the Dominion's new fleet, nearly 600 capital ships strong. But this time, they faced a prepared defense. Modified Council vessels waited alongside the human squadron, their crews trained in new tactics. "All ships execute Formation Delta," Grant commanded. "Show them what you've learned." The battle that followed amazed even the most experienced military observers. Council ships, once slow and predictable, now moved with newfound grace. Their weapons, enhanced with quantum targeting systems, struck with precision instead of relying on brute force. From his command post, General Kraz watched in satisfaction as his flagship executed a perfect quantum-assisted maneuver. "I never thought I'd say this, but size really isn't everything." The Dominion fleet found itself facing an enemy they couldn't understand. Every tactic they had developed over centuries of warfare proved useless against this new approach to combat. Their mighty ships, unable to adapt quickly enough, began falling to precisely coordinated attacks. "Look at their formation," Wilson pointed out. "They're still trying to fight the old way, relying on weight of numbers and firepower." Aria's voice came through the command system. Enemy fleet is experiencing severe coordination issues. Their command and control systems cannot process our attack patterns fast enough. The viewing screen showed a Dominion dreadnought attempting to target a human vessel. The smaller ship simply shifted partially out of normal space, the massive energy beam passing harmlessly through its quantum field. Before the dreadnought could fire again, 3 Council cruisers struck it from multiple angles, their modified weapons bypassing its shields. "Sir," Rogers reported, "we're receiving surrender signals from multiple Dominion vessels. Their fleet cohesion is breaking down." Grant nodded. "Accept their surrender. Show them we can be merciful as well as powerful." The Council observation posts recorded everything. Representatives who had once mocked Earth's tiny fleet now watched in awe as those same ships led the combined fleet to victory. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted dramatically. "Admiral," Thull's voice came through the command channel. "The Council has voted. We're officially recognizing Earth as a primary military power. Your technology and tactics have proven revolutionary." The announcement spread quickly through the fleet. Council ships flashed their running lights in celebration, their crews finally understanding why humans had never needed to build massive vessels. Innovation and efficiency had proven more powerful than size and brute force. Commander Wilson reviewed the battle data, the Dominions losing more ships by the minute. Their entire strategy was based on being the biggest and most powerful. They don't know how to fight an enemy they can't simply overwhelm. Grant watched as more Dominion ships surrendered. Their once mighty fleet was being systematically dismantled by forces they had dismissed as insignificant. It was a lesson the galaxy wouldn't soon forget. "Send word to Earth Command," he ordered. "Tell them Phase 1 is complete. The galaxy is ready for true military cooperation." As the battle wound down, alien officers gathered on the Hope's Dawn to study human tactics firsthand. The ship they had once mocked as tiny and primitive was now recognized as one of the most advanced vessels in known space. The galaxy was changing. The age of massive warships and brute force was ending, replaced by an era of innovation and efficiency. And it all started because some aliens made the mistake of mocking humanity's tiny fleet. Grant smiled as he watched Council ships practicing quantum maneuvers. Sometimes, he reflected, the greatest victories come from being underestimated by those who should have known better. The final battle for galactic peace unfolded near the Dominion's home system. A massive fleet of Council ships, modified with human technology, gathered alongside Earth's tiny squadron. What had once been dismissed as an insignificant force now led the greatest armada the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Grant stood at his command station aboard the Hope's Dawn, watching the tactical displays. The remaining Dominion forces had gathered for one last stand, over 1,000 capital ships protecting their throne world. "All ships report ready," Commander Wilson announced. "The combined fleet awaits your command." The viewing screen showed their forces. Council vessels now equipped with quantum shields and AI support systems, their crews trained in human combat techniques. They no longer relied solely on size and power, but moved with precision and purpose. "Arai," Grant called out. "Begin the attack sequence." The human ships moved first, their small size allowing them to slip through gaps in the Dominion's defense screen. The enemy commanders, still struggling to adapt to this new form of warfare, couldn't track the quantum-shifted vessels effectively. "The Dominion flagship is launching their super weapon," Lieutenant Rogers reported. "Energy readings are off the scale." The massive beam of destruction, capable of shattering planets, lanced out toward the combined fleet. But this time, they were ready. The Council ships, using modified human shield technology, created overlapping quantum fields. The devastating weapon passed harmlessly through multiple dimensions, its energy dispersed harmlessly. "Now," Grant ordered, "show them what a real attack looks like." The combined fleet moved as one, their actions coordinated by linked AI systems. Human vessels darted between larger Council ships, their quantum weapons creating gaps in the Dominion's defenses. The larger Allied vessels followed through these openings, their modified weapons striking with surgical precision. "Enemy fleet is in disarray," Wilson reported. "Their traditional combat doctrine is failing completely." The viewing screen showed Dominion ships trying to maintain their rigid formations, but they couldn't adapt fast enough. Their massive vessels, once symbols of power, had become vulnerable targets against an enemy that understood efficiency better than brute force. "The Dominion Supreme Commander is requesting communication," Rogers announced. Grant nodded, and the screen showed the Dominion leader, a towering figure who seemed unable to comprehend their defeat. "How?" he demanded. "How did such tiny ships defeat the mightiest fleet in the galaxy?" "Because size was never the answer," Grant replied calmly. "You built bigger ships, thinking they would make you stronger. We built smarter ones, knowing they would make us better." The surrender of the Dominion fleet marked the end of an era. As their mighty ships powered down their weapons, the galaxy witnessed the final proof that humanity's approach to warfare had changed everything. In the council chamber days later, High Speaker Thull addressed the assembled representatives. "Let this be a lesson to us all. We mocked Earth's fleet for its size, never understanding that they had discovered what we had forgotten, that intelligence and efficiency trump brute force every time." The peace treaty that followed included provisions for sharing human technology throughout the galaxy. Earth's tiny fleet had become the model for a new kind of space force, one based on innovation rather than intimidation. Admiral Grant stood at the ceremony, watching as former enemies signed agreements to work together. Commander Wilson joined him, holding a datapad with the final battle statistics. "Did you ever think," she asked, "when they were all laughing at our ships, that it would end like this?" Grant smiled. "Humanity has always done well when others underestimate us. Sometimes being seen as small and weak is the greatest advantage of all." The viewing windows of the council chamber showed the combined fleet in orbit, massive council ships now operating alongside the small but mighty human vessels. Together, they would ensure peace in the galaxy. "ARIA," Grant addressed his ship's eye. "Send the final report to Earth Command. Tell them Operation Underdog is complete." As the ceremony concluded, representatives from across the galaxy approached the human delegation. They no longer saw a tiny primitive fleet. They saw innovators who had revolutionized space warfare, proving that the true measure of strength lies not in size, but in how intelligently you use what you have. The Hope's Dawn and its squadron had changed the galaxy forever, all because some aliens had made the mistake of mocking the tiny human fleet. Sometimes, the smallest ships cast the largest shadows.